This is the first review lecture before we start tackling some real meat of Algebra 1. These review lectures should be some things that you covered in 7th and 8th grade math, and this lecture is going to be basically over basic geometry. So let's, before we start, let's discuss what we're going to learn. We're going to talk about perimeter and area. Perimeter and area of just basic shapes. We're not going to get into some crazy shapes. We're just going to keep it pretty simple. So let's review some of the facts of some of these basic shapes before we get started, and then review what perimeter and area is, and we'll get into those formulas here in a minute. The first shape is a four-sided figure, right angles on all sides, and all sides are the same, and that shape is a square. So the sides are all four the same, and this is a square. So S is considered the side, length of the side of the square, and since it's a square, all four sides are the same. So this side would be S, this side would be S, and this side would be S as well. The next we're going to look at also has four sides that meet at right angles, but only two of the sides are the same. Now a lot of people get confused with length and width. They can be used interchangeably. This can be L and this can be W. It doesn't matter, just as long as they're different numbers. This side, the bottom here, is referred to as the length, and the W is for the width, and this is the rectangle. The next one is a lot of people get tricky sometimes, and that's the triangle. The triangle is one of the first confusing shapes here. And the main two things we're going to be looking at in a triangle, other than these two sides, which are going to be, all three sides are different here. This is not an equilateral triangle. But what's important is the base of the triangle and the height of the triangle. And the base and the height meet at a right angle. That's important. So this side is never going to be the height because it doesn't meet the base at a right angle. And this is a triangle. And we'll talk more about triangles in the next course in geometry. But for now, we're just going to keep it fairly simple. And this one is unique because it doesn't have a perimeter. And I'm going to try to draw a nice, good, perfect circle here. This is a circle. The distance around the circle is not the perimeter, as we'll learn. It is called the circumference. And this is the center of the circle. And any line that goes through the center of the circle from side to side is called the diameter. So D is the diameter. And if it starts at the center and it extends to the outer edge of the circle, which is half the diameter, it's referred to as the radius. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over the formulas for perimeter and circumference. Circumference of the circle is different. Of a square, rectangle, triangle, and circle. Okay. The perimeter of the square, and we're going to write this as capital P. The perimeter of a square is simply 4 times the side. Because if you add those up, you have S plus S plus S plus S, and that's 4S. If we find the perimeter of a rectangle here, this side is L as well, and this side is W, since they're parallel to each other in the same length. And we add up the outsides, we have L plus L, so we have L plus L plus W plus W. And we can simplify this a little bit so that the perimeter of the rectangle is 2L, because there's two L's added together. That's 2 times L plus 2 times W. The triangle I'm just going to label these as S and T, because the perimeter of a triangle you can only find by adding up the outer edges. So that'd be B plus S plus T. That's the perimeter of a triangle. Now, the perimeter of a circle, we don't call perimeter, we call that the circumference. Circumference. And that one is tricky because it introduces the symbol pi, which a lot of people get confused with, and we're not going to utilize multiplying by pi for right now. We're just going to keep things in terms of pi. But if you take the diameter and you multiply it by pi, you get the circumference. And if you notice that two r's make a d, right? If I take one r and I put another one over here, then I have d. So circumference can also be known as 2r times pi. So both of these formulas both work for the circumference of a circle. So let's look at some examples. We're going to find the perimeter of this rectangle. Find the perimeter of these shapes. The first one's going to be a rectangle. I just gave it away. And the length is 8 and the width is 5. Okay, so we can use this formula here. The perimeter is 2 times the length, which is 8, plus 2 times the width, which is 5. And one thing I'm missing here is a unit, because 8 does not make any sense without a unit. There we go. So 8 meters plus 5 meters. So all of this is going to be in meters. So let's simplify this out some. We have to use the order of operations, which says to multiply first. So 2 times 8 is 16. And then we have 2 times 5, which is 10. So we have 16 plus 10 meters. And 16 plus 10 is 26 meters. So the perimeter of this rectangle is 26 meters. Let's look at a perimeter of a triangle here. Perimeter of a triangle. And this one is going to be 4 feet. This is 5 feet. And this is 7 feet. So the perimeter is just simply to add up the outer edges. So it'd be 4 plus 5 plus 7. And we'll add from left to right. 4 plus 5 is 9. And 9 plus 7 is 16 feet. And you can add that unit on later there. Just make sure that your answer has a unit in it, because 16 as a measurement without feet means nothing. All right, one more. Let's find the perimeter of a square. And we'll say this square has 5 inches as a perimeter. We know it's a square. We're given that it's a square. So that perimeter is simply 4s. So it's 4 times s, and s is 5. And 4 times 5 is 20 inches. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about area. What is the area of a shape? It's the number of unit squares. The number of unit squares that fill the shape. Okay, so let's say I got this rectangle here. And this side is 1, and this side is 2 units. So we'll call it inches. Why not? Okay, notice that I can split this into 2 squares. This is 1 square, and this is 2 squares. So that would mean that the area is 2 square inches. Okay? And square inches is also written as inches square, like that. So if I had a bigger shape, let's just say this is 7 and this is 8 millimeters. Okay, so we could split this into 8. 1, 2, pretend they're nice, perfect, beautiful squares. 4, 5, 6, 7, and this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So how many squares do we have here total is what we're asking here. And you should remember to notice that if I want to find the total amount, if there's 8 rows of 7, to find out how many squares there are, we're going to multiply. So that area is going to be 7 times 8, which is 56 millimeters squared. And I apologize for not being a perfect artist there, but I think that gets the drift across. Okay, so let's talk about the other shapes. The area of a rectangle. The formula here, we have a rectangle. Let me draw this here, and the length is L and the width is W. The area is the length times the width. The length times the width. If the sides are all the same and we have a square, that would mean that the length and the width are the same. So the area is just going to be the side times the side, which is also the side squared. So the area of a square is the side square. Okay, 2 trickier ones. And these are just formulas that we're just going to have to memorize here. Triangle. And this is very important. The base and the height have to be perpendicular to each other. They have to meet at a right angle. Okay, if we had a triangle like this, I'm going to draw a triangle that doesn't work here. And this was 7, and we knew this was 12, and this was 13, which is not the case, but let's just say it is. The area, we don't know the height. We'd have to calculate that out to find the height, because none of these numbers are perpendicular to the base. We'd have to know this number here, and we could calculate that later, but right now we're not going to do that. That's a little for pre-calculus kind of mathematics, a couple levels up, maybe Algebra 2. But if you look at this triangle, we do have a height and a base that are square roots. And look, if I draw another half over there, this is an H and this is a B, and the area of the entire thing would be B times H. But the triangle is only half of that, so we divide that by 2 to find the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. Okay. And the trickiest one to explain, because we really can't explain this fully without calculus, is the area of a circle. But we still can cheat because we get the formula from calculus, which we will do much, much, much later. So if we're given the radius of a circle, so the area of a circle, if I could write area of a circle, okay. The area of a circle, I'm going to use that capital A, is the radius squared times that number pi again. And for now, we're just going to leave things in terms of pi. Or we can go ahead and, where pi is approximately 3.14. So we can we can leave it in terms of pi for now and worry about this higher multiplication later. So if I said find the area of a circle, let me see if I can get a little bit more room here. Find the area of a circle with radius 8. Okay. So we have the radius of a circle. We have a circle, and pretend this is a nice, beautiful, perfect circle. And the radius is 8 feet. Find the area. Okay, so that area is going to be pi times the radius. The radius is 8 squared. So to simplify this, we're going to say that 8 squared, we do the exponent first, so it's going to be 64 pi. And in most cases, this answer is perfectly acceptable. However, if you're working for a cement truck company and the guy says, how much cement you need, and you look at him and say 64 pi, he's probably going to look at you funny. So in a real world application, you're going to approximate that and get 64 times 3.14. And if we grab a calculator and do that, we'll see that the area of that circle, and this is not 64 pi, it's 64 pi square feet. The area of that circle is going to be 200.96 square feet. Or you could probably round that up to 201 square feet. Let's look at a triangle. And you notice right off the bat that you see that it's a proper triangle to use because the base and the height are perpendicular to each other. They meet at right angles. So the area is going to be the base times the height divided by 2. Okay, so let's fill in the blank. The base is 12 and the height is 7, and we divide that by 2. And we can go ahead and divide first to simplify this out just a little bit. 12 divided by 2 is 6, so this area is going to be 6 times 7, which is 42 square inches. And that, I'm going to conclude with, is the review of area of a circle, so area of basic shapes. So let's review those formulas again. Area and perimeter. Okay, so A is area and P is perimeter. So the perimeter of a square, and we can write this like this, P square is 4 times S. So if you have a square, to find the perimeter, you multiply 4 times S. The perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. The perimeter of a triangle is the sum of the 3 sides. There's no real formula for perimeter of a triangle. The circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, or pi d. There's no 2 there. Pi d. The area of a square is the side squared. The area of a rectangle is length times width. The area of a triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. And the area of a circle is pi r squared. And that is a review of basic geometric figures. The next lecture will be covering Combinatorics, that's a big word. But we're going to keep it simple with tree diagrams. Tree diagrams. We'll see you in the next lecture. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.